Why is this against me? And I said, this isn't against you. This is actually for you because it's causing you to slow down and it's causing you to ask deeper questions. You can't get a degree. You can't fix it. You have to actually just be with it.
Yeah, you can't throw money at it.
Nope. No amount of degrees or money is going to make this go away. You have to actually just be in the process. And that's hard for A-type personalities.
Mm-hmm. It's hard for anybody, but especially A-type. You have such a calming demeanor, and that is missing in this crowd, right?
Yeah.
And I use a little bit of astrology sometimes, and I can see, oh goodness, it's going to be like, this is a 3-year transit for them. But it sculpts them into a better version of themselves. Maybe it's a maturation process. Maybe it's a relationship change. Maybe it's a move to a bigger home.
Right. There's so many factors that contribute. But if you're open to just seeing what's in front of you and taking the time to be curious, I think people who have gone through fertility struggles are so deeply appreciative of being a parent.
That's for sure.
I've had so many, and I'm sure you have these stories, Danica. I think I might have told you one of these stories when we saw each other a couple of weeks ago. But when I'm in Whole Foods shopping and a woman walks up to me and has a baby in a baby Bjorn, and she has tears in her eyes, and she points to her baby and she says, "Thank you."
Oh,
I'm like,
my God.
and I didn't necessarily know that my Yoga for Fertility had reached her through the DVDs that I put out. But again, I realized when I was doing those private classes, I thought, I'm not reaching enough people. How do I reach more people? And that's when I did the Yoga for Fertility DVD.
Yeah, and those were so beautiful, and you were always smiling through the difficult postures, and I'd be like, how many more minutes? And you just had such grace, and you still do, and it really is it flows right into this process so elegantly.
Wow. Thank you. That's really kind of you. But it does take a village. I mean, this is what I was saying at the event the other night is, they always say to raise a child, it takes a village. Well, sometimes to have a child, it takes a village. And the work that you have done and the book that you've written and personalizing those stories and letting people know that they're not alone and giving them that sense of, oh, okay, I can surrender to this word surrender and receive. And I've said this, and I think the body, once it unwinds itself, can start to heal itself, but you have to be able to be willing to let go to then receive. And that's hard.
Oh yeah, because we want that familiar discomfort
Control.
or pain or illusion of control.
Yeah.
Right? If we are used to it not working, that becomes at least a known experience, whereby I can't tell you the anxiety that the women grapple with when they do actually clear the hurdle and become a little bit pregnant. As you know, having lost that second.
Yeah, actually, there's so much anxiety once they do become pregnant because they know how hard it was. So getting them through the and that's why I did the second DVD, which is the Yoga for Pregnancy. And I did it in 3 parts so that people could focus either on the first trimester, the second trimester, or the third trimester. And then at the end, I had some kind of testimonials from some of the women who had gone through infertility and then went through pregnancy so that people know that anxiety doesn't go away. It's okay to understand that just because you're pregnant doesn't mean everything's okay. You're still anxious because you're worried that something's going to go wrong.
For sure.
Yeah.
I have a woman I'm working with right now whose firstborn was genetically fine and normal, but then there was a birthing trauma. So now that child has cerebral palsy. And as a result of the impact to the couple's life, they did IVF to have a second child who has so far tested as a normal embryo. Genetic screening at the different points have all shown normal, but now there's a small bone in the nose structure. And they are really nervous about what will this mean. And the desire to control is turned up on high.
Yeah.
And my job is just to help her to stay in the present moment as much as possible without all of the information. As my second born had a hole in his heart. He had a heart valve defect. And we had to wait and see until he came out of me. Was he, quote, normal? This birth defect is all through the kid's dad's side of the family. But that not knowing, luckily, the physician said, if you want to worry about something, this will be the thing you can worry about, or you can wait to see how he is outside of the body. We'll put a stethoscope on him instead of these fetal echocardiograms.
Right.
And turned out Jack was totally fine without murmurs until he was 5 years old, and then 2 of them showed up. And then he outgrew those too. So, these things have rippling effects, these traumas, and yet it forces us to be in the present moment and appreciative of everything. And the pandemic is another one of these things, like we were talking before recording, the collective grief and the trauma that we're all dealing with right now. How we all have so much anxiety, and the different triggers and concerns that women and people have, and how we've been affected by trauma. I would like to talk about the generational trauma, because your friend Leah, she was on here recently, and we talked about family constellations. So do the two of you talk about that stuff on a regular basis?
Oh, yeah. Leah and I, you have friendships that are sometimes for a reason or a season, but Leah and I have been friends since we were in our 20s. I was 23 when I met Leah. She was my first friend in Los Angeles, and she has stayed with me through every age and stage of my life. Her son is my godson. Because we both had single sons, they became kind of familial brothers. They were raised together. They vacationed together. They weren't always happy to be brothers, but now in their 20s, they found each other again, and it's kind of nice. But she and I have been on such a parallel quest because we both were actresses. And then she got her master's in early childhood development because she realized acting didn't give her enough, and she was really curious because she wanted to be a parent. And then she got after she raised her son, and she started developing yoga for kids. So we both became yoga teachers around the same time. We both practiced together. We became teachers. She did a whole developmental program around yoga. And then she and her husband, we ended up doing family constellation therapy work together, and both met her teacher, Mark Willin, at the same time. And so I have done family constellation work, not only for my own life, but just as a collective, kind of support of other people discovering this work. It's really powerful.
So powerful. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And the truth that comes through the system with the epigenetic work is so profound. And like you said, with astrology and the DNA and epigenetics and inherited family trauma, it's all contributive to what's happening on the planet. And the more we start to consciously realize that we are connected, and I think that's, the World Wide Web gave us our first view of how connected we really are. Not always to the best results, but the COVID did that too. We're all related to this planet in one form or another. And the more we take responsibility for our impact on each other, I think the better it will be. And I think that's the next stage of our evolution is consciousness.